during a visit to Snap-on Tools in Kenosha. Buy American, hire American. Talk more about that visit and some other issues. We are joined now by 7th District Congressman Sean Duffy. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning to you, Jerry. How you doing?
Doing well. So, why, interesting executive order, why do you think President Trump chose Wisconsin?
Well, listen, I think that, if you look at Wisconsin, 1 out of 6 of our Wisconsin workers are in manufacturing. So manufacturing is important to our state, but also it's a state that he won by a narrow margin, first time, as you know, since 1984, since the Republican has won the state. And to come back and to signal to the Wisconsin voter that he hasn't forgotten us. He hasn't forgotten his promises. He's going to still work for us and fight for us and fight for our jobs. And I think what's pretty cool about what the Trump administration has done is, in the past you have parties that try to, focus one on the businesses, or then another party will just focus on the workers. But Trump has been able to focus on both of them. He sees that when boats rise, it rises for everybody. And if businesses are doing better, they have more money to pay better wages. And if he has, better protections in place, so there's not more competition from skilled labor with our American workers, that we'll be in a place that there'll be better paying jobs and less competition for those skilled American workers. I think everybody has been a winner under the Trump presidency because he's fighting for the whole system, not just a segment of the system.
So as reported by USA Today, Trump will sign the so-called Buy American, Hire American executive order during a visit, as I said, to Snap-on. That was according to 2 senior administration officials. By combining aspects of immigration policy with federal procurement regulations, Trump is using executive action to advance his philosophy of economic nationalism without waiting for action from Congress. Let me ask you this. Conservatives are very critical of President Obama for usurping Congress and doing things by executive order. Is President Trump opening himself to the same criticism?
So first of all, you're right. We get very touchy when we think the executive is taking power that we think belongs in the Congress. But I do think there are certain things that are in the purview of the president. So if we're looking at the H-1B visas, the work visa program, he's given a directive to the agencies to make sure there's not fraud and abuse in the program, that it's being run as designed, that we're not bringing people in through a work visa system when we actually have American workers that are able and willing and ready to do those jobs. So that's just a compliance executive order, which I think is appropriate. And I think the president can give a directive that we buy American in American federally funded projects. So that doesn't concern me. Now, there's another conversation that he's having today on health care and, what kind of subsidies he is going to promote in Obamacare if we don't get a repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act, or Unaffordable Care Act, I should say. That is in the purview of the Congress. We spend the money. We decide how money is spent, not the president. And that's where I think a second part of today's conversation on health care, he would get pushback if he thinks that he can direct how health care money should be spent, because the Constitution gave that purview to the Congress.
Doubling back on the specifics here, the H-1B visa program, which allows 85,000 foreign workers into the U.S. each year to take specific high-skilled jobs with U.S. companies. Program popular with the information technology industry, which Trump is accused of importing low-wage workers on H-1Bs to take jobs from young college-trained Americans. The executive order will stop short of the 1 to 2 year moratorium on new skilled worker visas that Trump called for during the campaign. The Buy American portion of the order will tighten the waivers and exemptions that agencies use to get around procurement laws that favor American-made goods and require agency heads to sign off on those waivers. It will require agencies to consider whether foreign governments are using unfair trade practices when considering the lowest possible bidder, and it includes language requiring transportation projects to use steel melted and poured in the United States. There are those who said that last part isn't practical. The using steel poured and melted in the United States. Can you really use domestic steel, I guess?
Well, I guess I haven't seen the criticism of why we can't use domestic steel.
Cost-wise.
But again, that's an area that it comes to trade practices, and we have other countries that are willing to subsidize their steel and dump it on to the American market. And again, I think that it's important not just for our American economy, but American defense that we have the ability to produce steel and iron in America, and we're not reliant on other nations for that production. It's a national security issue. And when we're doing federal projects, I'm okay saying, hey, let's try to buy American steel. That is the right approach. And frankly, if it's a little more, it's probably because you have a foreign country that's subsidizing their product and trying to dump it into our country.
Talking with Congressman Sean Duffy, but on point though, you're right, because I know that there are, and I face this, that conservatives are called hypocrites because how critical we were of President Obama's overreach. But when you look at these things, you're absolutely right. These are really, I would describe as best practices that he's putting down for agencies, not the type of overreach in what should be legislative policy that President Obama engaged in.
Well, look at DACA. Look at the Dreamers.
Yes.
On immigration. I mean, President Obama basically said, "I'm not going to enforce the law. I'm going to sign an executive order that undermines laws that have been passed by the Congress." That's the kind of thing that gets people really tweaked out in Congress. Or I'm going to change aspects of Obamacare by executive order instead of having them being changed by the Congress. It's an executive order that has the force of legislation, where you're right. Donald Trump is actually